we're going to be looking at the mean and standard deviation for the sample as a whole. We'll take the mean and standard deviation for 2 questions in our survey. We'll look at the range, and then we'll do a correlation. All right, so once your data is all entered, the first thing you want to do is you want to sum each of the figure out what the scores are, the sum for each participant in your survey. And so to do that, you hit enter, start to type in sum comes up, you highlight that, and then you go and you highlight the columns that you want to sum. We've done this before. When you do this, make sure you don't highlight the ID column and that you just do the questions that you're interested in looking at. And so that's sort of the stress score for this survey. Higher scores indicate higher levels of stress or college stress. I believe this was my survey here, so 32 was my score. And then if you drag the column down, the little square down through the column, it'll run that equation for all the other participants in your survey. And so this is the sum score of stress. Higher levels of stress are indicated by higher scores, and lower scores are represented by these individuals here. The next thing you want to do is you want to do the mean and standard deviation for your sample as a whole. So to do that, you hit equals and then type in average. We did this last week, but that's not right. Average, and then highlight the columns you want to average. And then do the same for the standard deviation. Enter. And so the mean for this questionnaire is 32 with a standard deviation of 8.5. And so scores vary around the mean by about 8 points. So some people score higher than 8.5. Some people score lower than. Some people score higher than 32. Some individuals in the survey score lower. And the average variability around that mean is about 8.5. And then you want to look at the range, which is the difference between the highest score and the lowest score in our population. And so to do that, you want to subtract the highest score here, which is 43, from the lowest score, which is 25. And that gives us a range of 18. And so from the highest score to the lowest score, there's 18 points difference in that. So there's kind of gives you an indication of the variability that, some people are scoring really high on stress, and then there's several individuals in our sample that are scoring very low on the level of stress. So the other thing I want you to do is I want you to take the mean and standard deviation for 2 of your questions in the survey. I'm not going to show you how to do that because I've done that here. And I'll go to the next section where we'll do the correlation. Okay, so for this last video, we're going to look at a correlation between 2 of the questions in your questionnaire. And so part of the lab this week is to look at the mean and standard deviation for 2 specific questions in your survey. And so you're going to want to pick questions that you think might be related. And so what I've done is I picked stress for grades and stress for test papers and exams, because it's likely that if you're stressed about your grades, you're also going to be stressed about your test papers and exams because they're going to reflect your grade. And so I've created the mean and I've created the standard deviation for both of those questions. And I'll just show you quickly, because we've done this already, how to do that. You just, again, average equals average, highlight the column that you want to look at, and then hit enter. And then for the standard deviation, you'll do the same, equals, start to type in standard deviation, highlight the column, and then hit enter. And so you'll see that the mean for both of those questions is similar. It's about a 3.3 to a 3.16. So it's likely that those questions are going to be positively correlated or moving in the same direction. Standard deviation is also very similar. They're within 1 point of each other. You can see that here. And so our readings have talked about what a correlation is. It's the relationship between 2 variables, and that can be in a positive direction or a negative direction. A positive direction would be as one goes up, the other goes up. And so as stress for grades goes up, does stress for tests, exams, and papers also go up, or does it also move in a positive direction? And we'll look at that with the correlation here. Now, negative correlation would be that one variable moves up and the other variable goes down. And so the relationship is in a negative direction. And so an example might be the number of classes that you've attended, let's reverse that. Let's say the number of absences that you have in class and the grades you're receiving in the class. And so if you miss a lot of classes, you have a high number of absences, you're likely going to have a low grade. So that would be negative correlation. As absences go up, grades go down. That's just one example. Correlations can range from 0.1 to -1, with a correlation of 1 being a perfect positive relationship, a correlation of -1 being a perfect negative relationship. And so that's just some information about a correlation. And now we'll go in and we'll look at a correlation here. Now, to look at a correlation, it's a little different than what we've done in the past, what we've done before. For this, you got to go to Insert, Functions. Okay, so you want to go up to the menu up here, go to Insert, go to Functions, and this will come up. And as I've talked about before, you've got all these sort of built-in equations that can be run in Excel. So for this, you want to type in correlation. You see, I've done a couple already, but you probably won't have this. So you want to start to type in correlation, and this will come up. You want to highlight that, and then you'll get this column here. And what this is wanting you to do, it's wanting you to fill in two variables into each of these columns, in each of these sections. And so for the first one, we're going to look at stress for grades. Now, just want to make sure you're clicked in here, and then you can go over and you can highlight any column you want. You could highlight this column here, but we want to look at grades. And then you want to go down to the next column, and you want to highlight that. And then you want to then again highlight the next column that you want to look at. So this is stress for grades, which is D2 through D7. And then stress for exams, tests, and papers, which is I2 and through I7. And then you hit enter or done, and there you go. That's the correlation right there, which is 0.87, which is pretty high. It's almost perfectly correlated with so like I said, 0.1 is a perfect correlation. That's pretty high. It's almost close to a perfect correlation. You normally don't see variables that are that highly correlated in real data. So that's how you look at a correlation, and you can do it for any variable in your data set. You want to pick variables that you think might be correlated in order to be able to get some kind of correlation for the assignment this week. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit of rambling there, but that's how you do it. If you have questions, send me a course message. I'm always happy to help out in any way possible. Okay.